Have a seat, today's tea is bitter, but still sweeter than the price the villain in this story is about to pay. May's red ledger has just turned to a new page. Are you ready to claim justice with Reddit? Revenge Tales. I cheated on my husband after 18 years. I said that out loud, and it still doesn't sound like me. So here's the question that keeps me up at night. Could he ever trust me again? Really trust me? Because the next morning, I still packed lunches, still did school drop-off, still smiled at the other moms in the pickup line. Like my life wasn't on fire. But at home, Ethan looked at me like I was a stranger, wearing my face. Then I saw him at the kitchen table laptop open, finger on our phone bill. He didn't yell. He didn't slam anything. He just said, "Who is this number? And why are you texting him every day?" If you've ever been on either side of betrayal, subscribe, because I'm about to tell you exactly how this started and what it cost us. My name's Megan. I'm 36. Ethan's 42. We've got 3 kids and a life that looks normal from the outside. A quiet suburb, a minivan with crumbs in the seats, a calendar that runs our marriage, soccer, dentist, school, pickup, birthday parties. Weekends are Costco and Target, arguing over which brand of paper towels, then collapsing on the couch like we earned it. I used to say, "We're good. We're a team." I meant it. But somewhere along the way, I started moving through my own house like I was carrying something hot. I'd keep my phone face down on the counter. I'd take it with me to the laundry room for no reason. If Ethan walked into the kitchen, my thumb would swipe away the screen before my brain even caught up. And I kept telling myself the same lie, over and over. It's just texting. That night, it was late. The kids were finally down. The TV was on, but nobody was watching it. Ethan sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open like he was doing bills normal. Boring, responsible. I was rinsing a lunch container in the sink, trying to act like my hands weren't shaking. He didn't come at me. He didn't raise his voice. He just turned the screen a little and said, real quiet, "Who's this number?" I walked closer. I saw the same number. Over and over. My stomach dropped so hard it felt physical. I laughed one short, fake little sound, like that would make it disappear. "It's nothing. Just work stuff." Ethan stared at me for a second that felt too long. Then he nodded like he heard me, and didn't believe a word. He didn't argue. He just went still. And that silence, that's what scared me. After Ethan went quiet, I did what guilty people do. I tried to control the story with tiny, stupid choices. I deleted threads. I cleared recent. I changed Ryan's contact name to pharmacy like that made it harmless. Like a label could turn a lie into something normal. My phone lived face down on the counter, face down in the cup holder, face down on my nightstand. If it buzzed, I'd flinch before I even looked. In the morning I smiled for the kids. Big smile. Bright voice shoes on. "Let's go. You're gonna be late." I cut apples. I signed folders. I played the part. At night, the house would finally settle, and I'd hear Ethan exhale in the dark. Not a sigh for work. Not a sigh for bills. A heavy, tired sound that said he was thinking. And I was the reason. And I kept telling myself, just get through this. It'll calm down. It didn't calm down. It got comfortable. Ryan started with these small, constant touches like he was tapping on glass to see if I'd answer. The first one that stuck was at 6. Sure. Good morning. That's it. 2 words. Nothing explicit. Nothing you could point to and call dirty. But it was personal, familiar, like he had a right to my morning. I replied in the coffee drive-thru, inching forward behind a line of minivans, one hand on the wheel, one hand holding my phone low, out of habit. My heart thudded like I was doing something huge, even though it was just a sentence. He wrote back fast, a little joke. "How'd you sleep? You okay?" And I hate admitting this, but I felt noticed, seen. Then my car door opened, my oldest climbing in, and I snapped the screen off like it burned me. After that good morning rhythm started, home felt louder, like everything had sharp edges. Ethan and I didn't fight about the affair. We fought about the trash, the budget, The pickup schedule. The kind of stuff married people argue over when they're trying not to talk about the real thing. He'd say, "Why is the credit card so high this month?" I'd snap, "Because groceries aren't free." He'd point at the overflowing can. "You walked past it 5 times. I'd shoot back, "So did you?" One night, I said, "I'm tired." Ethan didn't even look up. "Yeah, me too." And that was the moment that landed in my chest the way he said it. Like we were roommates managing a household. Not two people who used to reach for each other. I felt invisible in my own marriage. I didn't say that out loud. I didn't ask for help. I went looking for the feeling of being seen somewhere else. And I knew quietly. Clearly I was turning a knob I shouldn't touch. Once you start hiding, you don't stop at one lie. You get better at it. Faster. Calmer. And that should have scared me more than it did. I downloaded a hidden messaging app in the bathroom with the fan running, like a teenager. I set a new passcode with my back to the door. Then I stood there for a second, staring at my own face in the mirror, trying to feel disgusted. Mostly, I felt relief, like I'd built a little room Ethan couldn't enter. After that, lying got easy in this quiet, everyday way. "Where's your phone?" "In my purse." "Who keeps texting you?" "Probably school stuff." Ethan started asking more directly. One afternoon, as I rinsed dishes, he said, "Who are you always texting lately?" I didn't even pause. I just said, "No one," and the second it left my mouth, it sounded like it belonged to somebody else. After that no one, everything in our house felt like it had a wire stretched tight through it. Months went by 8, maybe 9, and I lived like I was walking on thin ice, trying not to make a sound every time my phone buzzed. Ethan's eyes would flick over without him meaning to. He'd be helping a kid with homework, or loading the dishwasher, and still his attention would snap to that little vibration, like his body knew before his brain did. And I started jumping at stupid things. A weather alert, a school email, a spam call. My heart would kick like I'd been caught, even when it was nothing. I hated myself for it. I hated the hiding, the lying, the way I'd turned normal life into a constant performance. But I didn't stop. I just got quieter. Some nights, alone in the bathroom, I'd stare at my phone and think, "What am I doing?" Ryan didn't push at first. He just kept showing up in my day with messages that felt small, but landed heavy. Then one afternoon he texted, "Can we meet, just to talk?" I read it 3 times. My hands were steady, which scared me more than shaking would have. That evening, I told Ethan, casual, like it mattered less than milk, "I'm gonna run out and grab a few things for the house." He nodded, distracted, but his eyes stayed on me a beat too long. I drove to a bar and grill we both knew nothing fancy, the kind of place with TVS over the bar, and families in booths early in the night. I parked and cut the engine. For 3 minutes, I just sat there with both hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead like I could wait out my own choice. My throat felt tight. Then I opened the door, put my feet on the pavement, and walked in. Inside, it smelled like fries and beer, and that lemon cleaner restaurants use on tables. Ryan was already there, standing when he saw me, like we'd planned something important. He smiled too wide, like he was proud I showed up. He looked me up and down quick, practiced, and said, "You look good." I laughed, not because it was funny, because it hit a part of me that had been starving, and I hated that it did. The guilt came right behind it, sharp and immediate. We sat in a booth. I kept my purse on my lap like a shield. He asked how I'd been, and I heard myself say, honestly, lonely, lonely. In a house full of kids, lonely, with a husband 10 feet away most nights. Ryan leaned in closer, lowering his voice like we were sharing a secret. His knee brushed mine under the table. I could have stood up. I could have said, "This is wrong." I didn't move. The drive home felt longer than it was. I kept checking my mirrors like I was being followed, even though nobody cared where I'd been. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on. Ethan always left it on. That simple detail made my throat tighten. I went straight to the bathroom and took a shower that lasted too long. I scrubbed like hot water could erase choices. I washed my hair twice. I stood there until my skin went pink and tender, then wrapped myself in a towel and listened to the house TV, murmuring. A kid's laugh, the normal life I was risking. I threw my clothes into the washer right away. Late at night, like I was cleaning evidence. Ethan looked up from the couch. "You okay?" I forced my voice steady. "Yeah." I didn't look him in the eye. Later, I climbed into my youngest bed and held her while she slept, breathing slow and warm. And I realized I wasn't just lying to my husband. I was breaking something sacred in our home. After that night, Ethan started doing this thing that was quiet but constant, like he was trying to prove something to himself without ever saying the words. He'd check the phone bill again. He'd scroll our shared account history. He'd ask questions that sounded normal, if you didn't know what was underneath them. "Why'd you run to the store twice this week? Who called you earlier? Are you working late tomorrow?" And because he didn't have hard proof, I used that like a weapon. I'd keep my face calm. I'd shrug. I'd say, "You're reading into things," like his gut was the problem. In my head, I kept bargaining. It was only once. It's not like I'm leaving. I'm still here. But the messages didn't stop. Every buzz felt like a risk. Every reply felt like a cut. Not just to Ethan, straight into the middle of our family. It happened on a regular morning, which is what makes it worse. Lunch is on the counter. One kid looking for a missing shoe. The dog scratching at the back door. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter without thinking, just for a second. Then I ran upstairs to grab a jacket because we were already late. When I came back down, the house felt too still. Ethan was standing by the counter, holding my phone like it didn't belong to either of us anymore. His face wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was empty, like something had drained out of him. I stopped mid-step. My mouth went dry. He didn't accuse me. He didn't throw the phone. He just looked at the screen, then at me, and asked in this flat, steady voice, "What is this app?" And I knew right there this wasn't about suspicion anymore. It was about truth. I took a step forward and heard my own voice come out sharp, almost automatic. "Give me my phone." Ethan didn't move. He didn't tighten his grip. He just looked at me like he was trying to find the woman he married, inside the one standing in front of him. "Megan," he said, calm but hard. "Look at me." I couldn't. I stared at the counter. The kids' lunch bags. A sticky spot from spilled juice. Anything but his face. Because if I looked at him, I'd have to watch myself destroy him in real time. He scrolled with his thumb slow, like he didn't want to, like every inch of it hurt. Then he turned the screen toward me. A few lines. "Enough." My chest went tight. My ears rang. Behind us, the refrigerator hummed. The dog's nails clicked on the floor. And still, the kitchen felt like all the air had been pulled out. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He just asked, "So? Who is he?" I opened my mouth and nothing came out at first. I kept swallowing like I could push the truth back down. Ethan waited. He didn't rush me. That was somehow worse. Finally, I said it. Quiet. Plain. I slept with him. The words landed between us like a dropped plate you can't unhear. And then because I was desperate, because I wanted it to be smaller than it was, I added the dumbest sentence I could have said. It was only once. Ethan didn't explode. He didn't slam the phone. He just stared at me, eyes wet but controlled, like he was holding himself together with his hands. He asked, almost like a person asking directions, "Then what were the months of texting?" I tried to answer. I couldn't, because the honest answer was ugly. It wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of choices. And I felt the shame rise up so fast, it made me dizzy. I didn't get to finish my thought. Ethan pushed his chair back like it was suddenly too close to him. He stood up. Not fast, not dramatic, just done. Then he walked out through the door to the garage. A second later I heard it, the heavy thud of the door closing. Then nothing. Then the click of keys. Then the low rumble of the car starting. My oldest came into the kitchen, rubbing sleep out of her eyes. "Where's Daddy going?" My mouth moved before my brain did. He just needs to run out for a bit. I hated how normal I made it sound. Like he was grabbing milk. Like the ground under our family wasn't cracking. When the garage door lifted and the car backed out, I stayed standing for 2 seconds, trying to hold myself up with pride, with denial, with anything. Then my knees gave out. I sat down on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, hands shaking hard. I pressed my palm over my mouth. To keep the sound in, I swallowed my crying like it was something I deserved to choke on. Ethan came home late that night. I heard the front door, the soft steps, the way he avoided the hallway that would take him past our bedroom. He didn't come in. He didn't touch me. He didn't say, "We'll talk tomorrow." Nothing. I lay there listening to the house settle, waiting for anger, waiting for yelling, anything that would make this feel like a fight we could get through. Instead, when I got up to get water, I saw him on the couch with a blanket pulled up to his chest, staring at the ceiling like he didn't know what to do with his own thoughts. The next morning, he still made coffee, still found the kids' shoes, still loaded backpacks into the car. He said, "Let's go," in the same voice he always used. That normal routine was terrifying, because it told me he wasn't reacting. He was rebuilding his life without me in it, piece by piece, in silence. And I realized something brutal. I didn't just betray my husband. I broke the safety of our home. That afternoon, after the kids were occupied, and the house finally had space to breathe, Ethan sat across from me at the same kitchen table. No yelling, no tears, just a kind of focus that made my skin prickle. He said, "I need the timeline. All of it." I nodded like I was agreeing, but inside, I was already editing cutting corners, trimming details, choosing the version that would hurt him less and make me look less terrible. I gave him dates that were fuzzy. I skipped parts that made my stomach turn. Ethan listened without interrupting. Then he leaned forward, looked me straight in the face, and said, "You're still lying." Something in me cracked. I started crying before I could stop it. "I don't know how to tell you without destroying you," I said, wiping my cheeks with the heel of my hand. Like that could fix anything. Ethan's voice stayed low. I'd rather be hurt by the truth than live in doubt. And I knew he wasn't asking anymore. He was warning me. Ethan didn't give me a speech. He didn't threaten. He just said it like a boundary. You either respect or you don't. Cut contact. Right now. My throat tightened. I picked up my phone with hands that didn't feel like mine. I opened the hidden app. Ryan's last message was still there. Casual, like my life wasn't collapsing. I typed, "Don't contact me anymore." My thumb hovered. Then I hit send. For 1 second I felt this thin, stupid relief like I'd done the right thing and we could rewind. Then my phone rang. Ryan. Immediately. I stared at the screen until it stopped. I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. I just watched it ring out like a timer. A minute later, Ethan held out his hand, not for the phone, just his palm. Waiting, I handed it over. He saw the missed call. His face didn't change much. That was the scariest part. He said, "You see, he's still here, in my house." After the missed call, the house didn't feel safe for conversation anymore. Every sentence turned into a trap. So we did what people do when they don't trust themselves. We asked a stranger with a clipboard to hold the truth for us. Linda's office smelled like peppermint tea and hand sanitizer. Neutral art on the wall. A box of tissues that looked untouched, like it was waiting for us. Ethan sat stiff, hands folded, eyes forward. I kept twisting my wedding ring like it could anchor me. Linda looked at me and asked, simple and direct, "Megan, what do you want?" I didn't hesitate. "I want my family." She nodded once, then asked the question that made my throat close up. "And what have you done to protect your family?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out, because the answer wasn't complicated. It was just ugly, and sitting in that quiet room, I felt it clearly. I didn't lose my family by accident. I put it on the line on purpose. Linda didn't comfort me. She didn't shame me either. She looked between us and said, "Trust is transparency. Not promises, not tears. Transparency." Ethan finally spoke, voice flat like he'd rehearsed it in his head all week. "I need access," he said. "Phone, passwords, location, everything." My first feeling was humiliation. Hot, defensive, instant. Like he was making me smaller. Like I'd be living on a leash. I almost argued. Almost said something about privacy, about respect, until I heard how ridiculous that sounded coming out of my situation. So I nodded. "Okay." And the moment I agreed, I realized something I didn't want to admit. Embarrassment is lighter than fear. If Ethan was going to stay in the same house with me, he couldn't live in constant panic every time my phone lit up. But Ethan didn't look relieved. He looked hurt. He asked, quiet and raw, "Why did you do it?" After therapy, I still had to do regular life. That's the part nobody warns you about. The world doesn't pause because your marriage is bleeding. I pulled into the school pickup line and watched the other moms talk in little circles, laughing, swapping weekend plans, comparing schedules. I held my steering wheel too tight, trying to look normal. I kept my phone in my purse like it was a weapon, and this thought kept flashing in my head. If they knew, how would they look at me? Not, "Are you okay?" Not what happened. Just that quick scan people do when they decide what kind of woman you are. I felt my image collapsing. Wife. Mom. The one who has it together. I wanted to disappear right there in the minivan. To slide down in the seat and not be seen. Then my youngest came running out, backpack bouncing, and wrapped her arms around my leg like I was still her safe place. Her cheek pressed into my jeans. And for a second, shame had to make room for love. That night, I was in the hallway folding laundry, half listening to the living room. Ethan was sitting with the kids, trying to keep things steady. Homework, cartoons, normal. Then I heard him ask, too gentle, "Hey, how's Mom been lately?" My hands froze on a towel. I didn't mean to listen, but I couldn't stop. My heart started pounding like I'd been caught again. Only this time, it wasn't my phone. It was my children. My oldest hesitated, then said, "She's kinda sad." My middle added, "Matter of fact, and she's always on her phone." I felt the words hit my ribs, not because they were cruel, because they were true, and they were coming from the people I swore I was protecting. Ethan didn't say anything for a moment. Then he turned his head and looked down the hallway toward me. His eyes were like he'd just been stabbed with proof he couldn't ignore. And I understood, finally, in the most sickening way. This wasn't just between two adults. I'd dragged our whole house into it. After I heard my kids describe me sad, always on my phone, I tried to get it together. I really did. I kept my phone on the charger. I stayed busy. I answered Ethan's questions straight. Then a message came through from an unknown number. "Please, just talk." My whole body went cold. I didn't reply. I didn't even breathe right. I just hit delete fast. Like speed could make it disappear. Like it never landed in my life. But Ethan saw the gap. He'd been watching patterns for months. He picked up my phone, scrolled, and his thumb stopped on that little line. Deleted. He looked at me and said, quiet but sharp, "That's the problem. You're still choosing to hide." Something snapped in me, fear, shame, panic all at once. I yelled, "Because I'm scared you're going to leave me." Ethan's eyes didn't soften. They went tired. He said, "And I'm scared I'm going to lose myself if I stay." The next day, Ethan didn't come home with a list of demands. He came home with a decision. He stood in our bedroom, looking past me like he couldn't afford to look too long. "Trial separation," he said. My stomach flipped. I started to speak, beg, argue, promise, anything but. He held up his hand, not mean, just firm. "It's not to punish you," he said. "It's so I can breathe." Then he opened the closet and pulled out a suitcase. Not dramatic, just a suitcase we'd used for vacations. That detail wrecked me. I watched him fold shirts like he was packing for a work trip. He moved carefully, like sudden motions might break him. In the doorway, my youngest looked up and asked, "Daddy, are you going on a trip?" Ethan paused. I swallowed hard and nodded for him, because I couldn't let her see the truth. "Yeah, baby," I said, and it felt like swallowing glass. When Ethan left, the house didn't get quieter. It got hollow, like the sound was still there, but the warmth was gone. I kept doing the same things because I didn't know what else to do. I ran a load of laundry. I wiped crumbs off the counter. I unloaded the dishwasher and put the plates away like we were still a normal family. But every room felt wrong. His mug wasn't on the drying rack. His shoes weren't by the door. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was judgment. That night I sat at the kitchen table with a scrap of paper from my purse. No planner, no lists, just one sentence I couldn't stop thinking about. I wrote, "Do I want to be loved? Or do I want to be forgiven?" And the answer hit hard. I had chased the feeling of being chosen quick, easy, flattering. And in the process, I'd thrown away the kind of love that's quiet and real. So I decided, no more pretty version. I was going to tell Ethan everything. I asked Ethan to meet me at a coffee shop near our neighborhood, someplace neutral, bright, public. I got there early and sat with my hands wrapped around a paper cup I wasn't even drinking. My stomach kept twisting like it wanted me to run. When he walked in, he looked tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. He didn't hug me. He didn't glare. He just sat down across from me and waited. I slid an envelope toward him. Inside was the full timeline, the parts I'd avoided, the dates I'd blurred, the moments I'd tried to shrink. I didn't watch him read it first. I watched the door, the floor, anything that wasn't his face. Then I forced myself to look up. "I didn't just betray you," I said. "I betrayed our family." Ethan stayed quiet for a long time, the kind of quiet that makes you feel every heartbeat. Then he asked, barely above a whisper, "Do you love me?" I swallowed. "Yes," I said, but I acted like I didn't. Ethan stared at the table for a long time, like the wood grain could give him an answer. Then he finally said it, flat and honest. "I don't know if I can trust you anymore." My chest tightened, but I didn't argue. I didn't try to sell him a comeback story. I said the only thing that felt even remotely true. "I'm not asking you to trust me right now." I took a breath and kept going, because stopping would have been me hiding again. "I'll be transparent. Phone, passwords, location, whatever you need. I'll answer the questions you ask, even when they make me look awful. And if you decide you have to leave, I'll accept it." Ethan's eyes lifted, sharp with something like suspicion and grief at the same time. "Are you doing this for me?" he asked. "Or for you?" I didn't pretend it was pure. "For the kids," I said. "And because I want to live right. I don't want to be this person." That night I stood in our bedroom with the door half closed, the house finally quiet. I didn't turn on the big light, just the lamp on my nightstand. I looked at my wedding ring like it belonged to someone else. Gold, simple, worn smooth from years of dishes, diapers, steering wheels, grocery carts. I thought about the early years, our wedding photos where we looked so young. It's almost embarrassing. The first tiny apartment. The first pregnancy test Ethan stared at like it was a miracle. The day we signed papers for this house. Laughing in an empty living room because we couldn't believe we did it. And I understood something I'd been avoiding. Love doesn't die in one night. It dies in 100 small choices where you pick yourself over your vows. My phone buzzed. "Ethan, I'll go to therapy next week," his text said. I held my breath like that meant hope. Then the second message came through. "But I'm not promising anything." And somehow that hurt almost as much as the affair. Because it was real. I learned the hard way that trust doesn't come back because you're sorry. Sorry is a moment. Trust is a pattern. It only rebuilds when the truth stays the truth. Every day. No gaps. No edits. No clean version that's easier to swallow. I also learned that cheating usually doesn't start with sex. It starts earlier when you feel invisible, when you stop saying what hurts, and you let a stranger's attention feel like oxygen. I told myself it was just texting, and that lie was the first door I opened, and here's the part that still makes me sick. The damage didn't stay between two adults. The kids noticed. The house changed. Even silence became loud. That's what secrets do. They don't protect peace. They poison it. What I did wasn't one mistake. It was a chain of small choices made when nobody was watching. So the repair can't be one apology either. It has to be ownership, consistency, and the kind of honesty that costs you your pride, but gives you back your character. All right, let May be painfully clear. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern, and it showed up fast. A stranger asked you something stupid at a bar, you said no, and Mark turned you from wife to suspect. That's red flag number one, suspicion, without proof. Then he started the classic toxic combo, moving the goalpost, demanding the truth after you already gave it, and treating your calm as evidence. That's not concern. That's control wearing a suit. And when someone blocks the exit, when your "I need air" becomes "Why are you running?" That's not love. That's a power test. The moment he rewrote the story, you pushed me, you escalated. That's gaslighting 1. Oh, 1. Not loud, not messy, just cold, tidy cruelty. So here's your takeaway straight up. Your no is a full sentence. You don't audition for basic respect. You don't negotiate reality with someone who benefits from you doubting yourself. If you're hearing this and your stomach drops, trust that. Red flags don't get greener with time. To the villain of this story, karma doesn't need your permission. It just keeps receipts. And to you, sweetheart, this debt may clears it. But remember, these eyes are always watching. Don't let your name end up on May's blacklist next episode. Hit subscribe, because around here, justice doesn't show up late. It shows up ready. A final note from the library. While these stories find their roots in the halls of Reddit, they are artistically reimagined to speak to the heart. Any likeness to reality is mere coincidence. The emotions, however, are very real. Walk with empathy and let justice lead the way. Thank you for watching.